What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. It is finally time for week 28 Premier League predictions. I just want to say a massive shout out to all of you for the support on the channel. We're nearly at 32,200 subscribers, which is absolutely insane. So if you enjoy your football content, then be sure to click sub down below and leave your predictions for this game week in the comments. While you're doing that, flashing up on the screen are all of the people that are supporting me over on the Patreon. You get access to exclusive members, tips, and accumulators over there. You can message me directly if you want to talk to me. And of course, you get a shout out in every single video. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, even just for the last month or two of the season, then be sure to click that link in the description below. Here are the winning accumulators we've had on the Patreon since the last Premier League predictions video. Feel free to pause and look through that there if you want to get a closer look at everything on the screen. And here are the correct scores we've tipped. We of course have predictions for La Liga, Serie A, and Bundesliga already on the channel, but let's delay no further for everyone's favorite, the Premier League. I say everyone, it's not everyone's favorite, but a fan favorite nonetheless. And we're kicking off with an absolutely massive game. It's Nottingham Forest up against Manchester City. Now, Nottingham Forest qualified through to the quarterfinal of the FA Cup after beating Ipswich on penalties. I would say they had the better of Ipswich throughout the game, just couldn't find a winner. So I think deservedly going through. And Manchester City survived a scare from Plymouth Argyle after going 1-0 down, winning 3-1. So both teams still in the FA Cup and of course vying for top 4 in the Premier League. And I do think this is where Nottingham Forest come a bit unstuck, and I think Manchester City are going to win. I'm actually going for a 2-0 win. I think Man City win this one quite comfortably. Remember earlier on in the season when Man City were going through a torrid run of form and Forest were doing what Forest have been doing all season, City went and beat them comfortably 3-0. And I predicted that then. I'm predicting something similar now. Man City are just better than Nottingham Forest, even though they've had a very good season. So 2-0. The tip is Man City to win at 1.9. I think the odds are really, really good. Looking at my tips for the game week this week, I think in terms of value and likelihood, Man City to win is absolutely the best pick of the week. I'd go as far as to say it's a banker. Some people will probably call me crazy, but I think Man City win this one quite easily. After this, we have Brighton up against Fulham. Brighton, one of the form teams in Europe, in the top 5, winning 8 of their last 10 games. And we correctly predicted Brighton to win 2-1 against Bournemouth at home last week. I'm going to go for the same thing here. Fulham, they got a brilliant result away from home against Wolves, winning 2-1. But I think Brighton are just in real hot form. I think they can get the win here. I'm going to go for Brighton to win 2-1. And obviously, Brighton and Fulham both qualifying in the FA Cup. Brighton against Newcastle and Fulham against Manchester United. We tipped over on the Patreon. You would have seen it earlier on in the video. Both teams not to lose and both teams to score in those FA Cup ties. And that, of course, came in. So both teams looking towards the FA Cup and as high a finish as they can in the Premier League. Both teams can still get Europe. So this is a big game. I think Brighton win 2-1. The tip is going to be both teams to score at 1.61 rather than last week when I tipped Brighton to win against Bournemouth. I think both teams to score is a little bit safer here. After this, we have Crystal Palace up against Ipswich. And I mentioned Brighton being in the top 5 form teams in Europe. Crystal Palace are up there as well with the same record, 8 wins in their last 10 games. I think they beat Ipswich here at home. Jean-Philippe Mateta obviously absolutely kung fu kicked by Millwall's goalkeeper in the FA Cup. Hopefully he can recover soon. I don't think he'll be playing this game, but nevertheless, I think Crystal Palace are going to win. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win. The odds of Palace to win are very low, 1.45. I don't remember the last time Crystal Palace would have had odds to win that low. So to up the value, and given that Mateta probably won't be playing, I'm going to say the tip will be Crystal Palace to win and under 3.5 goals at 2.2. That's a massive increase, and I'm not sure I see Palace winning 4-0 or 3-1. So I think that's a very, very good pick. After this, it's Liverpool up against Southampton. Liverpool have the perfect game in between their 2-legged tie against Paris Saint-Germain. Now, I'm going to be honest. In the Champions League video, I predicted Paris Saint-Germain would win 2-1, and I have no idea how it wasn't at least that. It was the biggest smash and grab we've maybe seen for a long time. Liverpool scored a late winner to win 1-0, but I think PSG had like 30 shots nearly to Liverpool's 1 on target. PSG had 70% possession. They had 700 passes completed or attempted to Liverpool's like less than 300. They were absolutely dominating them, but Alisson Becker, man of the match, keeps Liverpool in the tie and basically gives them pole position to qualify. I said PSG would win the first home leg and maybe then not qualify due to the Anfield leg. But now Liverpool have got a nice cushion. It's not to say PSG can't come back at Anfield because they absolutely dominated Liverpool. But tying that in with this game, I originally thought, you know, a very high scoring win, but actually Liverpool, they can rest and rotate if they want. This is a winnable game. They don't have that much pressure from Arsenal behind them in the Premier League. I think if Liverpool had dropped a few points like they did and Arsenal kept winning, this would be a lot more crucial for them to win. But even if they lose this game, they're going to win the league. So I'm going to go low scoring. Liverpool to win 2-0. And the tip is Liverpool to win 2-0 at 1.9. After this, it is Brentford up against Aston Villa. We correctly tipped Brentford to draw 1-1 with Everton last week. In fact, we had 3 perfect scores last week. Brighton to win 2-1. Brentford Everton to draw 1-1. And Chelsea to beat Southampton 4-0. So a very good week last time out. And Aston Villa, the last game week, they lost to Crystal Palace quite heavily. They did bounce back with a win in the FA Cup against Cardiff 2-0. So another team that's qualified to the quarterfinals. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, a close game. I can't separate the two teams. I think if it was at Villa Park, I'd shade Villa and both teams to score. But I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. And the tip is both teams to score and over 2.5 goals at 1.66. After this, we travel to Molineux for Wolves up against Everton. My gut reaction here, I'll be honest, was a 1-0 win to Wolves, but I took a step back. I went with my head a little bit over my gut, and I think Everton do get at least something. They've been on a good run of form, and I think they're going to get another 1-1 draw like they did last time out. And the tip is going to be under 2.5 goals at 1.61. If one of these two teams turns up, it could definitely just be blown out of the water, but I'm going to go for 1-1. After this, it is Chelsea up against Leicester. Leicester, they're just terrible, aren't they? They lost 2-0 to West Ham. We tipped West Ham to win at 1.61. Chelsea beat Southampton 4-0. We tipped Chelsea half-time, full-time. I'm going to go for an identical score and tip as last week. So last week I did 4-0 to Chelsea against Southampton. Chelsea half-time, full-time, 1.66. I'm going to do it again. Chelsea to win 4-0 against Leicester. Chelsea half-time, full-time at 1.66. Imagine that, an identical score and tip with value prediction back-to-back. Would be phenomenal. I think Chelsea batter Leicester here, but there's no point looking at the handicap because you've got to go to like -2 to really get some value. And this keeps 2-0 on side, assuming Chelsea take a first half lead, which I expect they will. After this, we travel to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for Tottenham up against Bournemouth. Bournemouth, they're slowly slipping down the table, losing last week. I actually think they lose again here. I think at home, Bournemouth could definitely beat Spurs, but I just think Tottenham, they're getting some players back at the right time. I know they've got Europe to contend with, but I think they're going to win here. It's a bit of a gut feeling here. So I'm going to go Tottenham to beat Bournemouth 2-1. And I've actually tipped Tottenham to win at 2.35, which is my highest odds tip this week. And I just see it coming in. I think Tottenham can do it. I hope Bournemouth do it. I really do. But something tells me Tottenham actually get the 3 points here in this game. Now, after this, it's the biggest game of the week. There's maybe not a lot of connotations with regards to the league, but still, Manchester United up against Arsenal. Man United losing to Fulham on penalties in the FA Cup, and Arsenal battering PSV 7-1 in the Champions League. Absolutely incredible. They can really focus on this game knowing that they're not going to lose by 6 goals in the home leg. So this is a very important game. I think Arsenal are going to win. I'm going to say Arsenal win 2-1 away from home. The tip, however, is going to be both teams to score at 1.95 because I can see Arsenal messing up a little bit. I can see Man United getting a goal. So Arsenal to win 2-1, both teams to score at 1.95 is the tip. And after this, it is West Ham up against Newcastle. West Ham, as I said, coming off of a good win against Leicester. Newcastle, in the previous game week, losing out to Liverpool. They didn't have Isak, and it showed, but I think he will be back. We actually tipped over on the Patreon Isak to score in the FA Cup, and he did, even though Newcastle got dumped out by Brighton. I think Newcastle bounce back away from home here. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, but I love the odds of this pick here. Newcastle double chance and both teams to score. I think West Ham are good for a goal, especially at home. Newcastle shouldn't lose, given how much better than West Ham I would say they are. So I think Newcastle double chance of both teams to score at evens is amazing. Newcastle double chance and both teams to score, and Man City to win gives you odds of nearly 4 for a Premier League double at the start and the end of the game week. I'm just saying, I think that's really good. So that's going to do it for my predictions. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Like I said at the start of the video, make sure you leave yours down in the comments below. I love reading them. Drop a like while you're down there. Subscribe to join us on the road to 40,000 subscribers. And I'll see you in the next video very soon.